Hi, I'm Mike Warner, this year's president of the Greater Medina Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. I would like to welcome you to the 2018 Candidates Forum in partnership with Medina TV. All candidates in contested races were invited to be interviewed. I'm pleased to be joined by Jared Fry of Medina TV for the interviews. We hope you find these interviews informative and helpful as you cast your vote. We would like to welcome Bob Gibbs, candidate for Congress in the 7th District, to the Greater Medina Chamber and Medina TV Candidates Forum. Let's begin by having you tell us about yourself.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the Chamber for doing this. A good opportunity to talk to the constituents of the 7th District. My background is I was a city kid, grew up in the city, and became a farmer down in Holmes County, and got very involved in Farm Bureau, and that's where I got public policy experience. I served 20 plus years on the state board, and then I ran for state rep in 2002 and served 6 years in the Ohio House and then 2 years in the state Senate. And I've been serving as a member of the U.S. Congress since 2010. And I've been married for 42 years. I have 3 grown children, and so I have a small business background. I also had some rental properties and did some things like that. Small business background, so I'm really concerned about the business environment in this district, in Ohio, and the country. And you know, regulatory reform has always been a top thing of mine, and lower taxes and fiscal restraint. And so that's kind of the gist of it, my background.
Very good.
What skills and expertise do you feel you bring to this position?
Well, I think the small business background and family background, raising a family, that's part of it too. And then the experience, the public policy experience I had in the 20 plus years on the Farm Bureau board. I was president of the Ohio Farm Bureau in the late 90s. And then I've had 8 years experience as a state rep and state senator, and now 8 years experience as a U.S. congressman.
And as with your experience, I'll be interested to get your opinion on this. There's been a lot of polls and polling done recently that a lot of the public are starting to feel that government's broken or might need some fixes. Do you feel that's the case? And if so, what fixes do you feel there needs to be made?
Well, there's always things you can do better in government. I think that in this Congress we've made a lot of progress. You hear in the national media, especially, you know, it's just a downtrodden about, you know, tearing things down. You know, we got a lot of good things to talk about. We passed a lot of common sense regulatory reform, and we also passed a major tax bill reform and cuts that took effect January of this year, and we're seeing the fruits of that. We're seeing last quarter 4.2% gross domestic product growth. We'll be over 3, maybe over 3.5% annually for the year. We're seeing optimism, confidence in the consumers in the business sector. Mm-hmm. There was a poll done in businesses from small business to large. Over 95% of them responded that they're optimistic of the future of their businesses and the future of the economy in general. So we're seeing real good things, some real good things happening. We're seeing wages go up almost 3%, real disposable wages go up, income, and you know, people got more money in their pocket, and so a little less government's a good thing. And you know, I've always said if we had some common sense regulatory reform and you know, keep some fiscal restraint and keep more people money in their pockets and business pockets, they know how to do it a lot better than the bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. And I think we're seeing that. So we got a real strong economy, and on the foreign policy side, we're stronger militarily now. We're building up the military again. I believe when the United States is stronger economically and militarily, the world's a safer place. And we're starting to see that. You know, Kim Jong-un in North Korea, you know, we're having discussions. He's not firing missiles anymore. And we've got tough sanctions now on the mullahs in Iran. And, you know, Putin hasn't picked up any territory in the last couple of years under the new administration and our leadership in the Congress.
Mm-hmm. And leadership's a great point. You just brought that up there. How do you feel your leadership abilities differ from that of your opponent?
Well, I think my experience, just all the years that I've done things in the private sector, running a business, hiring employees, and dealing with the regulations that's involved in the agricultural sector. That's predominantly what I was involved in, and the experience, public policy experience. I served on numerous boards. I was on my local co-op board for 12 years and president of the local co-op for 6 years, a very successful co-op. And so it's just numerous things like that, and my experience now in my tenure in Congress of 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also, for the 6 years in Congress, I was also a subcommittee chair, and I had 34 members on the committee, and we dealt with all the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers projects, the U.S. CPA and the Clean Water Act, and a couple other things, but those are the main things. And so there's a lot of leadership there, and especially working with the Army Corps of Engineers, we had some challenges, and some of those challenges were here in Ohio that we were able to resolve.
Great.
You mentioned businesses and hiring employees. Workforce continues to be an issue in this area. Do you have any plans or any feel for how you might be able to help local businesses and being able to?
Well, what we've seen a change happen. The number one issue for our businesses, when I talk to businesses all the time, is finding workers, finding employees.
Right, yeah.
And I guess that's better than the alternative if people are out of work and can't find work. And so workforce development is a huge aspect. And I've had numerous meetings, stakeholder meetings with businesses. And I encourage academia and business to work together. And we're seeing more of that. Trying to also make sure that parents realize that not everybody needs to go to get a 4-year degree. What we're seeing is, I call them kids now, but young adults graduate from college with a 4-year degree and wouldn't be able to find a job. Now they can find a job, might not be in their field, but they have massive debt. And then you have young adults that go to 1 or 2 years of technical training and can graduate and with no debt and start with a $60,000 a year job. And there's across the board, there's a big need. So there's the jobs that we have today are a lot different than the jobs when we were that age. So workforce development is a big part of it. The President's plan dealing with infrastructure, there's 3 main components, how we fund it, streamlining the regulations, that includes some of my bills, and also workforce development. The President talks about that a lot, and we're trying to put some funds to that and encourage states to do that.
Very good.
Now, in terms of overall, we talked about workforce there. What other overall issues do you see as big issues that you would have to tackle upon re-election?
Well, I think I'll break it up here at the national level and at the state level or the local level. One of the things here at the local level, and especially in Ohio, because we're one of the top states in this area, which is not a good thing, is the opioid epidemic. And I've had several roundtables recently throughout the 7th Congressional District with medical people, first responders, people at treatment, faith-based people, pastors. And one thing we've seen in that, there's a lot more resources coming out of the federal government. We've got $4 billion now that's flowing out of Washington, D.C. to the states. And here in the state of Ohio, we had state legislators in these roundtables and learned that the state's doing a lot too. So the first thing on the opioid epidemic is talking about the awareness, education, and then, of course, enforcement for the people pushing the illegal activities, and then treatment, and then workforce development to make sure these people, when they get treatment and get detoxed, that they have a job to go to, and otherwise they're going to be back in the same situation. And so that's been a big thing locally. And the other big thing locally is finding businesses, finding employees, like we mentioned. And that's why I think we really need to have a legal immigration system with a guest worker program that works. And unfortunately, Congress hasn't been able to get that done yet. But I've been pushing strong for that, because especially in the agricultural sector, H-2As, and then other sector, H-2B visas, we have a lot of businesses that can't find the help. And you see some economists now talking, if we have a 3.5% GDP growth or better, how long can we sustain that with the baby boomers retiring and a smaller workforce? And so legal immigration will play a big part of that, and a guest worker program that works, that can be enforced with E-Verify and touch back to their countries if they don't want to stay here and become citizens.
Now, with all the different issues, are they all kind of even in terms of which one you think you need to tackle first, in terms of if you had to create a list 1 through 10, or is there one that really sticks out? Well,
I think what we've been tackling, with the tax bill, and that's get this economy going. And I've said since I've been in Congress, when I ran the first time in 2010, that we can't cut our way out of this mess. We got to be fiscally responsible, but we also got to grow the economy. And we've had an economy that was growing less than 2%, sometimes only at 1%, and some were saying that's the new norm. And now we're seeing that doesn't have to be a new norm. But if you take an $18.5 trillion economy, which we have, we're the largest economy in the world, and you look at 1% growth versus 3 or 4% growth, do the math, that's a lot more resources coming in all levels of government. And other thing we're seeing, more people are working. We have the lowest unemployment in years. You've got to go back 49 years. There was 9 months that we were less than 4%, and 4 of those months are in this year. And so more people are working. That means they're paying in their FICA taxes, Social Security, and Medicare, so that helps strengthen that. So that's a big part of it. And then the other issues, funding our veterans. We've done a lot to help our veterans. Numerous bills to make sure that veterans get the health care they need in a timely fashion, and that people are responsible. Defense, we're building up the defense again because we have all kinds of threats besides just the terrorists that I mentioned earlier. And those are key, but I think then it comes into workforce development and infrastructure, which I'm in the Transportation Infrastructure Committee, is a big thing. How are we going to fund our infrastructure for our roads and bridges? And we're talking infrastructure, not just roads and bridges. We're talking treatment plants, water and sewage treatment plants. We're talking broadband across the United States and rural area. This is huge. It's kind of like the interstate highway when President Eisenhower, put that directive out in the 50s. What that would do, how it changes us, and now we're going to 4G to 5G, faster high-speed broadband internet. So there's a whole host of things like that that's important, along with the immigration issue and border security. Visa reform. People we let in this country legally should be coming in on a merit-based system, not a lottery. Currently, we let 55,000 people a year in this country from certain countries, and they come in on a lottery. And we don't really know who they are. We need to be letting people in this country that can be part of our economy and be productive citizens and not be dependent on our American taxpayer.
Hey, you brought up great points on the national level as well as the local level. How do you handle that balance between your constituents that are local and the larger scale issues? How do you create that balance?
Well, sometimes it's kind of interwoven. Sometimes we have businesses that come that need help. And I'll just give you an example. A few years ago, we had an issue with the Army Corps of Engineers up at the Port of Cleveland. And since I was chairman of the committee, I brought the port, the EPA together, and the Army Corps of Engineers together. And we worked out an issue because they were going to quit dredging the federal waterway up there. That's 6 miles in on the Cuyahoga River. And at the end of that, it's a big steel mill, 2 blast furnaces, 2,000 employees, and a lot of that steel supplies the steel plant at Shelby in my district in Richland County. And so we've got the dredging done every year as an example. So there's things like that. Business sometimes come and we can help facilitate things. It depends what the circumstance is. But a lot of part of this job is a lot of it's communication, two-way street, talking to people and business and constituents, but also being a liaison between the federal government and our constituents, be it business or personal, individuals, to help them get through some red tape. And people, we've done a lot of stuff, casework, people that can't get a passport or couldn't get their Social Security check or tax refund. We work through all those, and so it's it kind of gets commingled in a certain way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. Very good. What else would you like the viewers to know when they come to vote this year?
Well, it's really a privilege to represent everybody here in the 750,000 people in the 7th Congressional District, and my goal is to work to make you as an individual, make sure you have the freedoms and you can chase your dreams, chase your opportunities. And when government is heavy-handed, one-size-fits-policy out of Washington, D.C., that limits your freedoms. And so we want common sense reforms, limited government, and keep as much working in your pocket, not going to Washington, D.C. And I think that makes a big difference, because I have full confidence in the American spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation. And when you have that, that's one of the reasons why we're such a great country. We have a country that has a constitutional republic, that's a system, a government that's of the people, for the people, by the people, and a free people and a free market capitalist society, economic system where people can chase our dreams and have opportunities. Everybody can chase their dreams. We don't guarantee success, but everybody has a chance to chase those dreams. And if you're more freer and less red tape and bureaucracy, you have a better chance at that success. And that's what's really made this country in our 242-year history so successful, and be able to provide the resources to do things around the world and help people and help our own people. And so I'm really encouraged about the future, because I think this country's on the right direction. But there's a decision to be made here, because there's some people out there advocating for socialism, and we really don't need to go that way. Socialism has failed, and our system, free market capitalism, is what unleashes the American spirit and entrepreneurship, innovation, and competition, and then opportunity for all.
Well, Bob, thank you very much for your time today, and we wish you the best of luck this November.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.